Welcome to Focus on Claims.
Hi, everyone. Ernie Bray here with another episode of Focus on Claims. And today I got an interesting guest. Chris Sestito. Chris has been in the industry for many years. He's been an executive. He's worked his way up. He started in claims, I'm like 25, 30 years ago. And and the funny thing about this story we'll talk about is Chris and I crossed paths when we were in college, and we didn't really realize where we're going to be ending up in the claims world. So, Chris, thanks for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you. And I appreciate you having me on. It is very interesting. It's an industry that once you get into it, it really has a hard time letting you go.
I know.
Go from one side to the other, but actually leaving the industry has proven a challenge. And it's a good challenge, honestly, because of the opportunities and the people out there. There's a lot of opportunity to work with some excellent people out there. So I kid about it, but it really is. It's a great industry to be in and to grow within as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's start out. We started off, we crossed paths many years ago at Cal Lutheran. My roommate was the quarterback, Adam Hacker. He was playing, you were on the football team there. Yep. And we're here at Cal Lutheran University. We're going to school. Nobody ever thinks, I'm going to get in the claims world after we graduate.
No.
And, but you know what? I'm as an athlete, and you an athlete too. A lot of things that when I run my business, and I'm sure when you're doing things in your life, sports was kind of a foundation for me. And, tell us, our listeners, a little bit about sort of before you got into the industry, a little bit about your football, how that goes, and what you learned during that time.
Absolutely. No, thinking back, last year I thought about it. In May of last year, it was 30 years since we were in college. And so just thinking about it, played football, had a great time, played since I was 9 years old. So it was great to go through high school and college. And you never think, it never once did it cross my mind, you know what I want to do after college? I want to get into claims. I had no idea anything about it. Yeah. But I will tell you this, growing up playing team sports teaches you a lot about being on a team, because within the claims departments, there's teams. Now you may be separated by lines of business, but those lines of business cross over. And in certain instances, say, for example, if you're a multi-line adjuster or you're on CAT duty, you're having to work with different lines of businesses. It teaches you how to work together as a team, how to listen to the leader, how to support that leader, how to challenge the leader. At the end of the day, the last thing you want as a leader, are a bunch of people just telling you, yes, you're the greatest, that's the greatest idea ever, when in fact it could be the worst thing possible. So you want to foster that environment. So the team aspect growing up taught me a lot, and I carry it over on my day-to-day work schedule as well, and quite frankly with my family too, because we're a team as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. Right now my nephew's playing football. He's a quarterback on a high school team down here. And, I see the coaches, they're always teaching these guys. It's not just about the game. It's about becoming, good young men out there learning and growing. And it's what you learn off the field too. It really matters. And it's funny how we are, like you said, 30 years later, we're looking into this and we're saying, you know what, these are the things that you carry on later in life. For sure. And working in teams, being able to, have to, work with people that may be doing something that you're not happy with. You have to be able to go tell them, hey, let's get this done the right way. Those uncomfortable conversations, things like that. But that foundation, I really think, really carries on in life. And, it's funny. I want to say, I actually interviewed last year another person from Cal Lutheran named Jason Spafford. He works at CSAA in the training department. It's so funny how Cal Lutheran, we got all these people coming from the insurance industry. It's a small world at the same time,
For sure.
So how did you, when you graduated, how'd your career progress after that and you get into the claims industry?
So back in 1996 is when I entered the industry. This was back in the days where you'd break out a newspaper. This was pre-internet. So you look at the newspaper, and I found a headhunter. So I met with the gentleman and did some aptitude testing with him, and he had a couple of openings. And so he and I spoke for a while, and I remember the conversation. He said, I work with this company called Safeco Insurance. I've placed a lot of people with them. They seem like a very good company. I haven't had any complaints. I have a position with them called a PD rep. He goes, I have no idea what that is, but it comes with a company car. Are you interested? I said, absolutely. It's company cars, fantastic, absolutely. And that was really how it started. And with that, I was very fortunate when I first started. My first manager was excellent. I mean, he was a jack of all trades. He was also our local IT support because he was very much into computers. So he he brought us along very well. He taught us what we needed to know. He showed us how to wield authority
Mm-hmm.
without doing it from simply an authoritative position, to bring people along, to get their buy-in, get their understanding, get their buy-in. So you're all believing in the end goal, as
Right.
opposed to you have to do this because I'm your boss and I tell you to. And so it worked very well for me. Some of the others, most of the others, same thing. Some people, they don't respond to that. There's different techniques that are utilized. But with me, having a manager like that, again, just uh, further validated what I'd always thought all along, is treating people with respect,
Mm-hmm.
bringing them along, sharing your vision, helping them understand what that vision is, and sharing what we need to do to succeed together. It worked very well for him. It's worked very well for me throughout my career.
It's funny what you just brought up there, that how you found it. You were looking in the newspaper, you're looking around. I got hired by CSA by finding an ad in the newspaper. I went and did an interview process,
Mm-hmm.
where basically they sat me down and they actually, they really focused on customer service and that
Okay.
interaction of people, which was really important. And I think when it comes to when you're at Safeco there, did they really focus on that customer service aspect from the get-go? Because I feel back when I was trained, that was really a vital part of the training. It's really about communicating with people.
Absolutely, it was customer service. That Safeco, back then and even now. I've been away from Safeco for a long time, but Safeco, the mantra was, we're not the cheapest, but we are the best with customer service. That was the focus. And they really tried to instill, because Safeco is sold through independent agents, so you have other team members. It's not a direct writer.
Mm-hmm.
So you have people depending on it, and they would tell you, the customer's paying for this service, whether it's hand holding them through the process, the conversation, all of those things. And from the beginning, they taught you, said, when you have a bad message to deliver, it only gets worse with time. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get a bad reaction, or maybe a reaction that you're not hoping for, in a week from now, but it's going to be exponentially worse. So you might as well get it over with now and just explain what's going on.
So how did you get in the PD rep? How did you progress in that aspect? When did you start learning to write estimates and learning about vehicles, and how'd that go?
So spent about a month and a half reading policy in the
Mm-hmm.
office, just and so it was front to back policy, focus on all of it and interpretation of that policy, which I found is very valuable, not just on the auto physical damage side, but just understanding what it means. And most importantly, when you have questions about it, who to go to, how to interpret this. And so it helped with a general understanding. The estimating training back then was sparse at best. They did a lot of ride-alongs, shadowing individuals, talked with them quite a bit. I was very fortunate. My team members, highly experienced, and they all were
Oh,
very great at sharing their information
so
with
you
me.
basically learned with a lot of like basically going out and doing it on the job with them,
Absolutely.
and they're training you, kind of sort of the mentor way.
Absolutely. And it helped, and I've said this time and again throughout my career, every interaction you can learn from, even the bad ones. And I shared with them, said, I may be writing with a 20-year experienced person. They do these 10 things great and these 4 things bad. So I'm gonna do these 10 things. I'm not gonna do these 4 things. And so it's a learning opportunity. So I was fortunate in the fact that I had such experience to learn from.
Yeah.
But it also taught you, because that was kind of baptism by fire, so to speak,
Yep.
taught you to have a little sand, a little grit to you, and you're going to make mistakes and own up to them when you're going through the negotiation process, the face-to-face negotiation with the shop.
Right.
You're going to have to, you know what? I was wrong. You were right. And more people have trouble doing that,
Mm.
as opposed to just admitting, you know what, that was a mistake. You caught it. Great. Appreciate it. Let's go with your way. It goes over much better that way. It
Yeah.
really does.
I agree. I agree. I think it's really, you can always be learning in this industry. And I even say
Sure.
that to any appraiser out there. I don't care if you've been doing this for 30, 40 years or you're just starting out. You got to have that open mind. You got to be able to take in new information. And these cars these days are changing fast. And there's
Oh
so
man.
much to learn. There's so much to learn. And nobody knows it all. And so, once you say you know it all, that's when you're going to fail. So,
Yeah.
so you progressed up in
Mhm.
in the company. You started learning more and you got into more management roles, executive
Correct.
roles, and all that. What have you seen? What would you say you've seen from when you started? And I kind of have my idea how things have
Mhm.
changed, but what do you see how the industry's changed, maybe in the training or just what you've seen overall in general on the auto side?
So the training is much more in depth, for the very reason that the cars are becoming rocket ships. Let's
Mhm.
face it. I look at my truck that's 3 years old. I know probably about 20% of the functions because there's just so much to it. So the cars are getting much more, you need to be much more technically sound. So the training has to match that.
Yeah.
I would say customer service remains from all the insurance carriers that I've dealt with and with Safeco and Liberty Mutual, customer service remains paramount. Because without the customers, the company doesn't exist. So you have to have that.
Right.
Looking at it now, from what I've seen, I think we are, as a, I wouldn't say as an industry, but as the up and coming ranks, they're lacking the ability in certain aspects to think independently. They're relying too heavily on, well, the system says this, so it has to be this, as opposed to taking a look at it and for what it is, and maybe talking with the shop manager when you're in the shop, negotiating that estimate and talking with them about, okay, why is it I'm seeing this? What are you seeing? Help me understand that. And just it's really asking for that help and understanding so they can learn. I'm
Yeah.
seeing some struggles and create bigger issues than need be, as opposed to being collaborative and saying, look, customers got to get taken care of. This is the car that we both have to look at this, work on this. So let's do this together. And at the end of the day, make sure this customer is set back to where they were prior to this accident.
Right. And not be so rigid in it. You got to take each situation a little different. I mean, one thing I always say, and people say, I repeat this all the time, is that, I think one of the biggest problems out there is when you create moments of uncertainty for a customer or a policyholder, that's when you're going to have most of your problems. And if you're communicating with them and you're asking the questions, right, like you said, admitting when you're at fault and you got questions, that's going to solve a ton of problems.
Yes.
What do when you go back to the training aspect, if you go back there, did you feel the training is better today? Or is it more detailed? And from my perspective, I felt when I was at CSAA and I was at Progressive as well, I felt I got really good training on the material damage side. But they sent us to an actual training academy or classes for like 2 or 3 weeks, intensive study. And we did that. And I thought it was pretty good. But it was really at that time, I felt all encompassing. I felt we had to be more of a generalist when I started out. I had to learn a little bit of everything. And I feel today, and maybe I'm wrong, some companies are a little bit more siloed to the fact that adjusters may not know physical damage. They're just very siloed.
Correct.
What's your thoughts on that?
So back then, you're right. We were more of a generalist, from understanding, and it could be just a basic knowledge of property or casualty or just a liability aspect. But we had to know all of it, and so we had to learn all of it, and then you had to have those conversations. One of the other things I think I believe is getting lost is the ability to articulate both in writing and in verbal form, denials, responses to complaint letters. I believe they are specializing to the degree where some of these adjusters aren't given the opportunity to learn that piece, because it really is, it teaches you a lot when you have to respond to a Department of Insurance complaint in writing, because you take a look at it and you have your response, then you go through your checks and balances to make sure everything is all right, and then you submit it and then wait for a response, whether, okay, everything's fine or we need some more follow-up. But it teaches you a bunch about, okay, I need to think before I speak. I need to think about what I want to send here, how to articulate that. And I don't know that that is given as much weight as opposed to the specialization, because speed is king. Customer service, a big part of customer service is speed. And so some of the specialization does enable that faster pace. But I think it does, it hinders some of the development of these adjusters at the beginning, because they're not having to do the written letters and some of this follow-up that you and I both had. That was a part of our day-to-day.
I agree with you. And I think that there is that trade-off to get that speed. They have to, silo people in there. But I think learning everything is really essential, because it helps you see the big picture of what you're dealing with. And so, so you were working all these years, and then I saw you went into the collision repair side for a little bit, and you worked there. And how was transitioning to the collision side out of the insurance side? Was that a big change, or what did you see it from the different side?
It's interesting because you work for a company, because I started with Safeco and then they were purchased in 2008 by Liberty Mutual. So you're working for a massive top 5 carrier. So going to a smaller organization, there's an adjustment there. Having spent 25 years in the insurance at one company and then moving on, there's that shock to something different from your day to day. what I found with that team, the Certified Collision Group, a lot of talented people, a lot of incredibly smart people. So for me, it was a great place to learn a bunch because I was exposed to the other side of things and understanding. Well, and I always like to believe I was very collaborative
Yep.
when I was on the insurance side, and I wanted to understand your point. You realize you can better understand the points of view that they were trying to make when you're working for that side than you're working for the other. And
Hmm.
so it was a very much a learning experience for me. Enjoyed my time there, and learned a bunch, which I care again. Every stop I've made, I bring over more of the information because even when I was in the insurance company, it wasn't all APD. I did property claims, I did cat management. So it was one of those things where, like we had mentioned before, we were exposed to these opportunities to deepen our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And it was just they were just looking for someone to step forward, and you raise your hand and you get picked for it. And may not be fun, maybe a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of extra work, but you have that experience now. And I look back, it exposed me to a whole set of individuals and employees at the insurance company that I would have never really worked alongside of, and outside of the company that I see at industry events. That hey, we
Yeah.
talk about this, and we talk about cat season, things like that. That we've all been on the phone at midnight in the middle of the week because there's a storm hitting wherever, and we're having to deploy people to that and deal with the aftermath. And you get your boots on the ground and go meet with the homeowners and take a look at their houses and stuff. So it's been great moving outside of that, but
Hmm.
I take the majority, because the majority of my time was spent at the insurance company. I take the majority of the experiences with that, but I'm picking up quite a bit having been on this side for, even though it's a short time compared to the insurance side.
Yeah, I think there's when you're talking about people who have left the industry, worked at a carrier for a long time. There's a lot of people who have worked at carriers have a wealth of knowledge that can really add a lot of value to smaller companies out there because they're bringing that skill set, that big variety of knowledge they have is really powerful. And I want to ask you this question right now, since our company that I do, we auto damage appraisals is the main
Mhm.
focus, photo estimate, all that. I want to give some of the appraisers out there. This could be either for staff appraisers at a carrier or independent appraisers out there who are trying to become better and want to prove their worth out there.
Mhm.
Handling that APD side, what would be a few things or a few tips that you would give if you were directing to physical damage appraisers out there, things that you feel are essential to be successful out there doing that job?
I would say it starts with communication with the customer, whether they want to be texted or emailed only or voice call only. Find out the method of communication, get in contact with them as soon as possible, kind of walk them through the expectations. Because let's face it, we're in the industry, so we understand the claims process. Everybody in the public doesn't. So helping allay some of their fears, it starts with that. From there, when you get to the appointment, whether it's in their driveway, at their body shop, your photos are everything.
Mhm.
Those pictures have to tell a story that's going to match the estimate that you're going to prepare.
Yep.
So make sure they do just that. When you should take 12 photos, don't take 7, take 12.
Right.
Take those photos when I'm having a hard time seeing the damage here, and you're standing there next to the car. You got to know on a photo, they're going to have a more difficult time. So utilize line boards, utilize magnetic arrows to focus the view of the person looking at it to that, and then write a complete and thorough estimate. And again, if you're at a body shop, talk with the shop. Go through that. Go the old-fashioned way, because I don't know that many do it anymore, and work to come to an agreed cost of repair so you can shorten the claim cycle. There may be a supplement. Once they start tearing this thing apart, there may be a supplement that adds money or time to it. But if you spend the time there, go through everything, and you're very open-minded, going back and forth with the shop,
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, you come to an agreed cost of repair that if it's a supplement, it's going to be a minimal supplement.
Yep. Those are some really good tips. And so if you're an appraiser out there and you're hearing this from Chris right here, follow those tips. Those are key. That'll help make you do your job better. And I got another question for you. Coming from that insurance side, sometimes appraisers out there, they may get grumpy with an adjuster when an adjuster's asking them questions like, "Hey, what is this? Why would you put this on your estimate?" And I think it really goes to what you were saying that remember, sometimes these adjusters, hey, they have questions. They may not be versed on material damage if it's a siloed company where there's certain adjusters that are not know material damage. They're not trying to necessarily question your knowledge. They just need some advice. They need some help. Did you see that happen at times where appraisers would get grumpy or would have, be frustrated with an adjuster when it's simply them asking questions?
For sure. And it really does come down to, just like you said, it's not as though that adjuster is saying, I don't believe you. And I don't think they just, they're not an expert in the damage portion. So they need to understand, because they have to explain that to someone else. They're asking questions because ultimately they're going to have to explain it. You want to write a thorough estimate with ample pictures that speaks for itself. So the questions will lessen from there. But when someone asks you and says, "Hey, I was noticing you put to replace this here. Why are we replacing this? Because I was told it can be repaired." It's not challenging you. They just need
Right.
they need to explain that to someone else. So give them the ammunition, the tools to articulate that, and then at that point okay, great, they'll go off from there. They may ask some more, but they're trying to learn, they're trying to gain that knowledge. And so look at it as such, as it's a teaching moment, because we all learn from someone. When we first started, we learned from someone. They took the time to explain to us when we said, why is this, why is that? So let's do the courtesy to one another and continue that way, because I think that's the only way, that collaborative way, that we're going to be successful.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. That's awesome. Hey, so where do you see, as we're getting ready to wrap up, where do you see the industry going with the AI out there? What's your belief on that? Where do you think that's going? Um, I've seen some of it out there. What's going on? How they're trying to use it?
Mhm.
What's your thoughts?
So I think it's a powerful tool. I think we don't fully know yet how powerful it can be for the industry itself. Like any new technology, whether it's going from 35 millimeter to digital photos, there's going to be a stumbling period. But I think the advantages can be exponential. One of the things that one of the companies I do business with now, part of what they say is, we use technology where it works and people where it matters. I think AI is important within our industry for how technically involved it's becoming, but this is policy interpretation. It's subjective, and so you do need people. I think we're learning to work with it and learning to utilize it and understand where it's most powerful and useful and where people are. That's going to be the key to success on a long-term scale for any insurance company or any part of this industry looking to employ AI.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Like more of an assisted tool, something that can help
For sure.
exponentially make that adjuster more powerful, but you
For
still need
sure.
that human aspect in there kind of front and center. So
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
awesome. So hey, I see now you got your own company you're doing some consulting. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now and how you're working.
Sure. I work with two companies, Mike Key Global, excuse me, Global Accommodations. It's a temporary housing company. Fantastic. Again, I pull from my property background.
Mm-hmm.
They do just that. They provide temporary housing in times of loss. It's a fantastic company. The people there are top notch. So I'm enjoying my time working with them. And I also work with Global Salvage Sales. So it's a salvage company that focuses on the specialty kind of salvage, not the private passenger vehicles, but you talk about yellow steel, marine hull, inland marine, cargo, things of that nature. Again, a lot of talented people, a lot to learn. I thought I knew a lot about both, but you come to this side of things and you get to learn a lot about what they're doing. So it's been great. I look at from business development to process reviews to contract negotiation to quality assurance reviews. I work with them on those aspects of the business, and I've been doing it just a couple of months with them. So gain standing and some utilization. And what I've found is the conversations that I've been having with the employees have been, for me, I'm learning a bunch. For them, I'm hoping they're learning from me. They are asking a
Mm-hmm.
lot of good questions because a lot of them don't have that insurance experience on the insurance side. They've been in the industry, but just not on the insurance company side. So for me, it's been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying my
That's
time with
awesome.
both these companies.
That's awesome. So, hey, as we wrap up here, hey, if somebody wants to work with you, Chris, how can they get a hold of you? Give our listeners kind of the information they can contact you, because you guys said you got a wealth of information and knowledge out there, and I think any company could really benefit from that.
Yeah, for sure. You can look me up on LinkedIn. That's the quickest way that I've found that this industry really works within that. I've got my email addresses set up on LinkedIn as well. But you can reach me. You can instant message me. Christopher Sestito at yahoo.com is the quickest way to just shoot me an email. If you have questions, you want to talk about what it is I'm doing, if I can perhaps give you a hand with something, I'm more than happy to have those discussions. I've just started doing this consulting piece. It's been a lot of fun. So it's gaining traction, gaining steam, and I'm learning a lot. That's one thing I really do. It keeps it interesting because I'm learning a lot about offering information from this side of the house as opposed to when you're direct within the company offering it the other way around. So I'm having a lot of fun with this.
That's awesome. So, hey, if you're out there and you need some help, give Chris a call, contact him. And if you're good, Chris, thanks for coming on. It was great to hear the story. And thanks so much.
Ernie, I appreciate the opportunity, man. You have a great day. Take care.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, bud.
This has been Focus on Claims with Ernie Bray, President and CEO of ACD.